Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of 5 Facts. I'm Tony Southcott and today we're going to be talking about the 1987 hit Predator. This Arnold Schwarzenegger movie is one of the most pinnacle pieces of 80s cinema, especially in the sci-fi genre. I know it's not quite horror, we're going to call it horror this week because I love this movie so much. This is directed by John McTiernan and we basically get to see a peak Arnold doing his thing against one of the most iconic movie aliens of all time. If you haven't seen it, I probably don't like you. Anyway, go see it right now, and let's get to the facts. Fact number 1. Shenanigans with suits and Jean Claude Van Damme. The original Predator looked nothing like the final product that we saw. The production company hired a costume company that wasn't quite as good, and you'll be able to see it over here on the side. The Predator looked entirely different. It had sort of a duck shape. It was a taller thing. It had like the inverted knees. It was kind of a cool looking alien, but it wasn't anything that was all that special. So after that fell through, they decided that they were going to go with Stan Winston's company. Stan Winston would work on Terminator 2, on just a whole slew of incredible movies. So they ended up paying a lot more to get him on there, but that's how the current Predator costume was made. Originally, it was supposed to be acted by Jean Claude Van Damme, but there were some problems with this. Jean Claude Van Damme thought he was going to be fighting Arnold Schwarzenegger and that you would be able to see his face, and he was fresh off a plane from Brussels and he was just pissed off. He also didn't understand that the creature costume he was wearing was completely red keyed out, or completely red so it could be keyed out easily to give the invisible shape that they needed for this. It wasn't what he thought that he had signed up for. He thought he'd be showing off his kung fu and everything, and in reality he was also a little bit small for the role. He was only 5'9". Every one of the people on the cast was over 6'2" for the American soldiers, so it didn't quite work out that well. Eventually, Kevin Peter Hall would replace him. Kevin Peter Hall is over 7 foot. I think he's 7'2", so you had a much more imposing alien figure with this as well. I think that it would have been interesting to see a more finesse-style fighter, but in the end, it wouldn't have been the Predator we know today, so I kind of like this change. Fact number 2, shooting in the jungle is hard. You would expect the jungle to be extremely hot, but at night the temperatures drop dramatically. This was a problem whenever Schwarzenegger had to be completely shirtless for long periods of times covered in mud, and that mud would actually lower his body temperature. They tried to use heat lamps and everything to make him feel better, but that would just dry it out. Then they'd have to basically spray him down with potter's clay again, which was a stucco type spraying device, and it would just make him cold all over again. They did try to give him Jaeger tea, which is basically a form of tea that is mixed with rum or schnapps, and instead of getting him warmer, it just made him really drunk for his filming. Most of the cast and crew also suffered from traveler's diarrhea. Apparently the place that they were staying, the resort, did not have a good water filtration system, so only people that were drinking bottled water the whole time were able to avoid having explosive diarrhea. Kevin Peter Hall, the one in the Predator suit, said that it wasn't a movie, it was a survival story for all of the people on it. He thought that it was just basically a terrible, terrible experience, especially whenever he had to crawl through a bunch of stagnant old water filled with leeches. Also, there were poisonous snakes, there were scorpions, there were spiders, there were just bugs galore. Everything about this shoot was very hard on the cast. Fact number 3, there's an entire genus of spiders named after this movie. Pterotronops are a specific type of spider discovered after Predator came out. Because of how their mandibles work, they actually were named after the Predator. There's a few groups named after this. The group Schwarzenegger is actually, each individual spider that they've found so far has been named after one of the people from this movie, such as Pterotronops, Dutch, Dylan, and various others from the movie. Thankfully, these spiders are only about 2 millimeters long, so it's really not that scary, and they can't fire lasers so far as we know. Fact number 4, John McTiernan had the cast train hard in military exercises to make the film more believable. Every morning at 6 a.m., the cast was woken up and they went and did military drills so that they would know how to move better, work better, and just give the film a more authentic feel, especially for Green Beret type guys. They learned hand signals, they learned how to navigate maps, they learned how to work together on hard tasks, and basically it allowed them to bond as a group. It's part of the reason why the banter for this film actually works out really well. Although some of the really, really bad jokes are written by Shane Black, who is currently directing the Predator reboot that's coming out. Shane Black is the one with glasses that does the really, really crude jokes. But doing this made it a more cohesive group, and it allowed them to feel like they were actually doing something together and kind of conquering the film. And I think that it actually worked out pretty well for McTiernan. Fact number 5, popcorn facts. You guys know that whenever I can't find one giant fact, I just throw a bunch of little ones out here, so here we go. Jessie Ventura was delighted to find out that the wardrobe department said that his arms were 1 inch bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger's. He was so excited about this, he went to Schwarzenegger to tell him. Schwarzenegger said, "We'll measure, and whoever has the biggest arms has to buy this champagne." Little did Ventura know that Arnold had actually told them to tell him that his arms were smaller so that he could win the free champagne. Arnold Schwarzenegger's kind of an overly competitive guy and a little bit of a trickster, so he just kind of had fun with that. The original concept for this film actually came because of a joke. It was based on Rocky, because there were people saying that the only person Rocky hadn't beaten was E.T. the extraterrestrial. Here's one that I always wondered about but kind of knew. The blood for the alien, despite being orange in the book, is hyper-colored here, and that was made by opening up glow sticks and mixing them with KY jelly. I figured out the glow stick parts and found out I was right about that. Not so much about the KY jelly when I was a kid. Last fact I have for you, the black helicopter pilot at the end of the movie is Kevin Peter Hall, who plays the Predator. Because of how hard filming was, McTiernan wanted to give him a little bit of on-screen time so that people would actually know what he looked like, and that was pretty cool to actually get to see him there. You don't really see his height inside the helicopter, but the dude is a giant. On a sadder note, he only lived to be into his early 30s because a blood transfusion gave him HIV. Really sad fact, but it's out there. Okay, I'm going to be a little bit biased here. I love this movie. I don't care that it's cheesy. I don't care that it's full of odd one-liners. I don't care about any of that because I still love it. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. It's not a perfect movie, but it's so much fun. And I absolutely love this peak Schwarzenegger era. Like whenever we had Terminator, we had this. We had also the Alien movies coming out. It was just an awesome time for practical effects and movies in general, especially the sci-fi action genre. So this was just a big part of my childhood, and it was one of the more formative ones that turned me into the portly reviewer that you see in front of you today. Maybe that's not the best thing, but we're not talking about that. Be quiet, therapist. Anyway, there's so little that needs to be said about this that hasn't already been said over and over and over again. Like, there's so much tread ground here. I don't care if you have a problem with Austrian Men or Schwarzenegger or 80s nostalgia. You have to love this movie. This is just so much fun. I want you guys to tell me about your experiences watching this and what you thought. Were you there when it actually came out in theaters? I was born the year it did, so I obviously wasn't. But I want to know what you guys think of Predator and if it still holds up for you today. Also, do you think that the new Predator is going to be good? We know that Shane Black knows the material. We know that he has done a lot of writing before. Is he going to nail this? Is this just going to be another failed remake? What are we looking at here? I'm cautiously optimistic because I think that as far as a writer, he's pretty good and he might be able to make this work. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/humanechoes. $2, $5, $10 a month. All of these tiers get you awesome stuff, such as the bonus podcast, pins, postcards, all sorts of cool things. So check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you guys soon. Bye.